publishing, whether you go traditional or indie or hybrid, it can be tough. And so, my advice is to make sure you're writing for the joy of writing. If you're writing to sell, there's nothing wrong with that, but your ego can take some hits.
Yeah.
um, so, I survive it by just loving the writing
Yeah.
and loving the creation process.
Tama Fortner is an ECPA award-winning and best-selling author with more than 60 titles to her credit, including her latest releases, Prayers for Each Moment, Everyday Joys Devotional, God, I Feel Sad, and God, I Feel Scared. Her next picture book will be releasing from Zonder Kids in 2026. Tama has collaborated with some of the biggest names in Christian publishing to create inspirational books for all ages. But her greatest accomplishments happen in a little home on the outskirts of Nashville, Tennessee, where she lives with her family and two feisty little pups. Watch till the end to find out their names. I just want to say thank you for doing this because I really am just in awe of what you have accomplished and think it's really cool that I got the opportunity to meet you and just to have this space to pick your brain. I just really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I don't know that I live up to all of that, but it's been a mostly fun journey. Publishing has its moments, but yeah, and I always want to help people who are earlier in the journey because it is a confusing process. It can be a lot.
Yeah, I'm learning that. I got lucky navigating the self-publishing route with my, I would say, for just saying that I've completed it, you know. And then I was like, I want to really lean into the publishing side of things because I have two small children. And the thought was, I've heard people say, well, you don't have to worry about marketing. You don't have to do this, this, and this that you would with self-publishing. So in that way, it's you can coast a little bit more or have a better work-life balance, so to speak. But it's very, hard to break into. And there's a lot of, I think, rules or, you have to have the right presentation and find the right person. So that's been a learning experience. I'm actually going to do self-publishing again because I have a project I'm really wanting to get off the ground. And we can start there. What is your opinion on publishing today versus where it was when you started out? Is it different, or how is the landscape in your opinion?
Oh, that is a great question. There have been so many changes, I feel, over the years, particularly post-COVID. I see publishers maybe not as willing to take a risk on a brand new writer unless they have, that magical platform, unless they have the social media numbers or they're a celebrity in some shape, form, or fashion, which I think is why we're seeing a lot of the celebrity books. And a lot of those are ghostwritten. Their publishers are risk averse these days, I think.
Okay. So that's a keyword that you've just mentioned because I wanted to ask you about ghostwriting. You are, we talked about this, you're a ghostwriter, correct?
Yes.
So publishers look for the numbers through the celebrity status or social media influencer status. How do they then connect you and the person with the numbers, or how does that process work?
So I kind of fell into the ghostwriting in a little bit of a unique way. So let me start there. I was an editor in-house at Thomas Nelson. So I made connections within the industry. And the thing about editors and publishing professionals is they don't stay in one place usually. They go to other publishing houses, and so they just kind of took me with them when they went, so to speak, so that when I went freelance, I had all these connections in the industry. And so most of the people that I write for or with are adult authors. So they've written adult books, and they want someone to write for children. And that's a whole different beast. They may not have the time, or they just may not have the skill set to write for kids. And so the publisher will connect me with them. Sometimes I work directly with that author, and sometimes I'm just working with the publisher, and I've never even spoken to the author. So it happens in a variety of different ways, but that's kind of the basic outline of how it happens.
I just wonder if you're ever on a plane and you see somebody next to you reading a devotional book, and you're like, hey, actually, I wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah. Inside my brain, I'm like, that's my book. So, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah, so you work in a freelance capacity now. I see that you have been published by B&H and Zonderkids and Tommy Nelson. So that is awesome. And you have over 60 titles to your credit. How do you do it? What's your secret? If that's not a loaded question, I don't know what is.
No. So probably roughly a dozen of those books are my own books, just not ghostwriting, not collaborations. The others are ghostwriting and collaborations, but I wrote them, so I kind of claim them.
Yes.
And I don't actually do much of the anonymous ghostwriting. Most of the time I am given credit, so I feel more comfortable claiming them. But the timing is just, when my kids went to school, I would work while they were at school. And as they got older, it got easier, but you're grabbing snippets of time here and there. And I know you still have little ones, so, it's the carpool line or the sports practice or the piano practice. I'm just huddled up writing. Empty nester now, so it is much easier. But I think work at home folks, we always have to be diligent about the distractions and not chasing squirrels. So that's my biggest struggle these days.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I should tell you, behind me under my desk is a large pile of Barbies, because this morning my children were underneath me while I was working here at the desk playing Barbie. Sometimes they get in the zone and the stars align to be able to work while they're playing. But right now they're with their grandmother, so like I can do this right now, and I appreciate. Grandparents are great for sure. I was on your site and I saw this verse. I thought it was awesome that you have a life verse on your site, Psalm 18:19. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. And you actually have a devotional coming out soon. What sticks out to you when it comes to that verse? Why is that your life verse? It's a beautiful verse.
It's obviously my favorite. So I did not grow up as a Christian. I was the shy, nerdy, in the background kid / adult, but never really thought for a long time that I was worth noticing. And when I became a Christian and started reading God's word for myself, sorry, I'm going to tear up. The God of the universe knows me, knows you, knows each of us, and not just knows us. Like I know, the president, and I know the king of England, and he knows us individually down to the hairs on our head, and the tears that we cry, and he doesn't just know us, he delights in us. And for someone who didn't feel delighted in for a long time, that just healed places in me that I didn't know were wounded. And that he sent his son to rescue us. And should have worn waterproof mascara.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
sorry.
uh, I mean, just wow. And now this spacious place that he's brought me into, that I get to tell the whole world, or at least as many as will pick up my books, that he delights in them and wants to know them. And just, oh my goodness, how good is God, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's the life verse.
Ooh, that is
Yeah.
powerful. That is beautiful. That and so I'm so glad that you are carrying that message forward to people who need to hear it and need to know that they are loved and valued and seen by their Creator. So tell me a little bit more about this this project, because I want to hear what you're working on. I know it's not a children's picture book, and we'll get around to that too, but I also would love to hear about
Right.
your latest projects.
So this is a little bit of a different kind of project for me. I've done tons of devotionals, and this one isn't your typical devotional in that it's like I don't have a devotional thought exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a collection of prayers.
Yeah.
Um, as I said, I didn't grow up a Christian. And when I started going to church and the things I would see about church and hear about, they were all so formal.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer was so formal. In fact, one of the first churches I went to, there was a gentleman, and it was fabulous. Don't get me wrong. He obviously prepped for and thought about and prayed over his prayers, but they rhymed.
Okay.
The whole prayer would rhyme. And so it was very intimidating.
Okay.
And I'm thinking,
Oh.
how do I pray to God? How do
Wow.
I do this? And, it took a few years and a few trips through the Bible for me to even convince myself that God really does want to hear from me, not just at mealtime, not just in church, and not just with the, oh Lord, our Father, not just the formal fancy words, but to actually just have conversations with him.
Fellowship.
He invites us into his throne room.
Mm-hmm.
And so these prayers are intended to be kind of a model for how to just pray naturally. So there are things, everything from, prayers of praise to, you're sitting in traffic and you're frustrated, and so just in the everyday moments of life. And I hope that will encourage people to just have this ongoing conversation with God.
So like prompting, just to not be so intimidating, like if somebody needs a little help knowing where to start.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. That is awesome. And that'll be out in 2026 in the fall, is that right? Or am I?
That one actually comes out this year,
Okay.
on September 9th. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been in the works a while and finally coming out. The picture book is what comes out next fall in 26.
Okay. Right. Is that untitled? Does that have a title?
So I think we have landed on a title. I have been asked not to share until October. So I think the end of October I get to share that. But it's I'm so excited. I've seen some illustrations for it and the preliminary sketches, and oh my goodness, the illustrator has just been blessed with unbelievable talent. And so I will be so excited to share more about that from Sonder Kids, and is who that's coming out with. But October, maybe early November, I have clearance to share.
Okay. I'll be looking for it. So back to that process. You're working with illustrators. So one of my goals is to become an author illustrator, and I'm just educating myself online on drawing and the craft of illustration, which is so fascinating to me. And I try not just to get hung up in the research phase, and I'm practicing daily. And I have a picture book dummy in the works and an upcoming project that I will be self-publishing. but I would love to hear your perspective on working with an illustrator by way of a publisher. So the publisher
Mhm.
selects the illustrator for you, and then how do you communicate what you want for the text, or is that a
Mhm.
very hands-off process? How much I've heard that some of the communication between authors and illustrators under a publisher can be minimal. Is that the
Mhm.
case?
So it will depend on your contract and the kind of publishing that you do. And when I say kind, like I also do what's called a work for hire
Okay.
publishing sometimes, where instead of the traditional contract where you're paid in advance and then royalties for every book sold, you just get a flat fee
Okay.
for the life of the book. Um, and it can sound like not a good deal, but they usually are. You
Okay.
usually get, a nice fee. So sometimes with those, I usually don't have much say in the illustration process. Depending on the publisher, and I see Easter is coming there with you with
Yes.
B&H. That particular one, I did have a lot of input on the sketches just to make sure, do you see anything missing here? Or, is this working with the text? But for your traditional royalty-based contract, which is what the one with Zonder Kids is, so that whole process is much more hands-on. It still goes through the publisher and through the art director to make sure that everything stays the way it needs to stay.
Sure.
So that the publisher is happy and the sales folks are happy. But you'll get a choice in who the illustrator is. They sent me probably 8 to 10 different illustrators and styles. And so, I kind of got to pick that. They send me the sketches and they make their notes and I make my notes. And they are very responsive to my concerns. And I haven't had hardly any, it's very nitpicky stuff. And that will flow through an art director so that the illustrator is just hearing from one person.
Right.
And not getting conflicting information from an editor and an art director and a sales and me. And
Right.
so everything flows through the art director.
Okay. Wow. Let's shift gears and talk about the craft of writing. So,
Yeah.
On writing, do you have a sort of formula for how you approach your picture books? Do you just have moments of inspiration, or is it like a daily craft where you sit down even when you don't want to and write? What is writing for you?
I do write something pretty much every day, but that's something because there's also the business side of writing. So there's social media and captions, there's articles to try to get, exposure. There's lots of different kinds of writings. I'm always writing, but to get to write my picture books, that is usually more focused time that I set aside. I have an idea. Sometimes it might be a little rhyme that pops into my head and I've just got to figure out the story that goes with it. Sometimes it's a story idea and then I've got to figure out where that goes. There's no magic formula, I guess, except, you want to have that story arc. A lot of times it's the uh, normal life of the character and then something goes wrong and they try to fix it and they fail 2 or 3 times and then woohoo, everything works out. But you want to always have that story arc, but a lot of times it's just sitting down in a quiet chair and getting the rough draft out and then polishing 3,000 times because you've only got X number of words, right? And so in a novel, you could have a dud sentence here or there, or, you could really use a better word there or there, but it's in a novel of 80,000 words. It's okay. In a picture book, you've got, roughly 500 to 1,000 words. Everyone has to do its job. And so a lot of my picture book writing time is spent in rewrites and edits. making sure everything is just right. And then you send it off to the publisher and they edit it again. So
Sure.
Right.
That's something. You've spent so many hours looking at it, and then it's like, I didn't know I could change it anymore, but here we are. Wow. I imagine that's what it's like anyway.
Yes.
On the craft of picture book writing, did
Mhm.
you pick a lot of that up from being around it when you were working in publishing, or were there like resources or books that you were drawn to, or did it just come naturally to you on how to format like the 32 pages, or how to format a board book, or working and getting published? Was all that sort of built in?
That's a great question. So, as far as the writing and the stories themselves, I think my biggest teacher was just reading.
Yeah.
And so, having come from a lifetime of reading, that just sort of naturally happened. As far as formatting into, your 32-page picture book or your 12-spread board book, that came from working in house as an editor. Um, there are these days, I was pre-internet days. I'm not going to date myself too much, but these days there are so many fabulous resources for writers that are online that I didn't learn except by being in the business. But now there are places like Kidlit 411 has tons of stuff. And there's another one that I'll probably think of after we hang up. But, just Googling those kinds of things, you can find all kinds of resources.
Right.
My own website, there are some templates for how to lay out board books and picture books. But the only thing I would caution if you dive into Google is to check their credentials and make sure, everybody kind of has an opinion, but you want the ones that are knowledgeable opinions. So
a lot of people have workshops now too, or like you pay for this course. So that's a good piece of advice, is just make sure you vet it as much as you can.
yes. Yeah. I find that especially on social media. I looked at something the other day because I'm always trying to learn, and it's like, well, I have more followers than you do. I don't, it's like, okay, I'm not going to do that because the course will sound really great. But yeah, you've got to vet them because they may tell you how to write a best-selling picture book, but did they do it?
Yeah. It's
So-
almost like that's like a pipeline, some sort of way. If one is trying to figure out ways to make money in their
yeah.
craft, or it's almost like somebody is giving them that advice, like you've got to have a course. Or speaking of talking business on that side of things, I think you and I talked about this at that last event that we were at together, where you may give somebody the advice that it is not necessarily something that is easy to do without a day job or without other streams of income.
Yes. So, if you're one of those New York Times bestsellers, you're probably going to do okay. But for the average author, let's see how to put this. So, in my field, I am considered, a pretty successful author. I always hate saying that. That sounds vain, but I do very well for my field. I need a day job. So my day job is the ghostwriting and the editing and doing things like that. The reality is you can really only publish your own books traditionally 1 to 2 per year.
Okay.
Because they want you to be focused on marketing that book, and you do end up doing a lot of your own marketing.
Right. Interesting.
You get some help with it as a traditional author, but so you're only getting income from 1 to 2 books, and very few books earn out their royalties. So that advance that you get may be all that you get. So you're going to need if you enjoy things like eating and, a red roof over your head,
Yeah, that's
little things
nice.
like that, you're probably
That's
going to need
funny.
a day job.
Okay, that's good advice. All right, so you had mentioned marketing. I wonder if the publisher, if it is a celebrity book, I mean, does the publisher then do the marketing for the celebrity? Like, are there tiers of how much marketing you have to do versus this or that?
Yes, there are definitely tiers.
Okay,
And I mean, if as an author, I get a little frustrated with that. But if
sure.
I look at it from the publisher's perspective, it makes sense.
Okay,
They've got to get their return on investment. There are books by celebrities, whether that's, a Hollywood celebrity or a sports celebrity or a Christian preacher at a big church or
mm,
someone well known, they're going to sell a lot more books.
okay.
And so the publishers are going to put more of their resources into promoting those books
Mm-hmm.
than they are someone who is just kind of mid-list, I guess, like
Sure.
me, or someone who's just starting out. Having said that, though, they do some wonderful things
Mm-hmm.
that I then don't have to figure out how to do, that you as a self-published author have figured out how to
Okay.
do.
Okay.
So that's nice.
Yeah. And what would
um,
those things be? What would you say is?
Yeah. So, well, for example, with this book that's coming out in September, they're going to take care of lifestyle photos for me. The book is set in these
Yeah.
little pretty settings and very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
They're going to take care of Amazon ads and
Okay.
A+ content. They took care of the press release. I just got that
Yeah.
this last week. They will do some things on social media. They'll send out a blast to their newsletter subscribers.
That is a lot.
It's a
That's
lot.
a lot.
I have a publicist who's helping me set up interviews. So that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They and it's a lot of things that I don't want to slash figure out or pay for.
Mm-hmm.
that So that is a blessing, and
Okay.
they can do that much more effectively than I ever could.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of advantages to that traditional
Sure.
publishing route, but it's also a very narrow route. It's harder to get into.
Right. You've worked with a lot of different publishers. Do they tend to all have different personalities of the way things work, or is it very similar to, I mean, as much as you can say?
Right.
Yeah.
No. So I would say the basic skeleton of their process is the
Yeah.
same. So, you're going to submit through an agent.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have that editor or publisher or acquisitions person. That varies.
Mm-hmm.
Who makes that first initial decision? Um, if one of them is interested, then it will go to some kind of pub board.
Mm-hmm.
That can vary a little bit from house to house, what that looks like and how long it takes. But generally speaking, you're going to have a team of editors and
Mm-hmm.
salespeople and, your print and design people voting
Okay.
on, can we make this work? And they'll run the numbers and they'll
Yes.
think, oh, I can sell this many copies, and you'll get a yay or nay.
Okay.
And then it'll go into the editing and then design and printing process. But that basic skeleton is the same.
Mm-hmm.
The terminology may vary a little bit from house to house.
Yeah.
The personality of each house is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I've not had any bad experiences at all. They've all been wonderful, just
Yeah.
a little bit different.
Yeah. That's great perspective. It just sounds like there's just tons of collaboration, which seems to be so helpful. And I wonder as well, in that initial stage, working with an agent, so you send out a query to your agent?
Once you have an agent, and it will vary. exactly how each agent does it.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you'll send them, for picture books, you'd probably send them just the whole picture book.
Okay.
And, for example, I've been going back and forth with my agent right now about one, because the publisher, it was kind of just a little feel good, almost poetic thing.
Mhm.
And the publisher's like, yeah, we like this. Can you change this or this? And then we might take it to pub board. So there's no guarantees there. Or could you try it as a story
Okay.
with a character? And so my agent and I have been going back and forth on the character. And then once you get your your agent and you both happy with the state of the manuscript, then you'll put together a proposal.
Okay.
And the proposal will be everything from a little synopsis, the full manuscript, your writing credentials, your marketing plan for the book,
Wow.
as far as what you are willing / able to do.
Okay.
So yeah, and then it will go from there.
Tell me, what is pub board? I don't think that term is new to me.
So I've only ever heard it called pub board,
Okay.
PUB, but it's probably publishing board.
Yeah.
But what will happen is if whoever your contact is at the publisher, for some people for some houses, that's the actual publisher.
Right.
For some, they have a specific acquisitions person, and others, it's just individual editors.
Mhm.
But if they're like, oh, I love this,
Mhm.
then they have to go back to their team and get the whole team to love it
Okay.
before they will offer you a contract. And that team will be the design people.
Right.
Can we visually, in terms of picture books especially, can we visually make this into a picture book? Yeah, in fact, I just had a publisher last week was like, I love this manuscript, but I can't make it work visually.
Wow.
Can you change this piece of it? And it made sense. I had something to do with animal foods. It's a long story. Okay. But anyway, it wasn't working for animal foods. They were like, I don't think kids will get this. And I was like,
Wow.
you're probably right, actually. So,
Okay.
so I'm tweaking that piece of it so that now it will work visually.
Mhm.
And when I send that back to them, then it will go back through all the editors, the design team, sales will get involved. They'll be like, oh no, there are 12 other books out there like this. We can't take another one.
Oh
or,
my goodness.
Or they might be like, oh, this would be fabulous for the mass market world, the Walmarts and Costco's and all of those. Or they might be like, this is too niche. We can't sell enough of it. So the salespeople really know
That's fascinating.
what will sell, and it can be frustrating sometimes, but you don't want a book to go out that just thuds. So
sure.
So if all the members of the team give you a thumbs up,
yeah.
Then that's when you'll get your contract.
Is that gut-wrenching, or are you so far into it that you trust the process and you are not so precious about your work? You know what I'm saying? Like, I get too precious with my work sometimes, even though, who am I? Like, what? I'm learning. I'm new.
So, yes.
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
Both. I like the picture book that wasn't working visually. I love that. It's just so sweet.
Yeah.
It's, I remember writing it. We were at the Vanderbilt baseball field. My husband was watching the game and I was not. And I'm writing my picture book. And so I'm very attached to that, but I see their point.
Okay.
So you have to hold on to your darlings loosely.
Sure.
Okay. And not be so attached to them that you're not willing to change.
Right.
Now that being said, there are some things I will not change. If it comes down to a doctrinal thing or Bible truths. Not that I've ever been asked to. I don't think.
Right.
There are some things you are going to want to stick to, or if you have a story that just this is the way it's supposed to be, it's absolutely fine to stick with that. You just may not get your contract.
Okay.
And that's just that give and take, but the whole process, yes, is gut wrenching.
Yeah.
No matter how many books, it's always, the rejection is
Sure.
still a rejection, and
Yeah.
you never totally get used to that.
Has that ever changed to where you got a no or a not right now, but it worked another time? Or do you just move on?
Um, I've not had a no become a yes yet. I'm hoping this one will.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But yeah, and honestly, too, I pray over everything I write, whether it's a specifically Christian book or just a fun kids book or whatever. And I may not always like the results, but I know that God is going to do with the writing what He wants done. And if He wants it out there, it will get out there. And if He doesn't, then I hope it won't. And with anything you go to God about that you've got to let go of, it's always a wrestling process in prayer. And
Wow.
okay, God, I know you know best. Help me to understand it.
That's
Help me to
good.
accept.
Yeah. Wow. On the topic of Easter is coming. My daughter loves it, and she can quote it.
Good.
I just want you to know, she gets excited when we read it to her, and she just waits for the chance to say Easter is coming, to fill it in.
Oh,
She does.
yay.
I think we have God, I Feel Scared as well. Somewhere in our bookcase, but
Thank you.
So, God, I Feel Sad and God, I Feel Scared are two picture books you did as a part of a series, I guess. Are there any more in that particular?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're still hoping.
Okay, sure.
They put the first two out to see how they do, but we would love. Those were actually the brainchild of Michelle Niedert, who is my co-author on that. So that's how we connected. She reached out to me. She is a fabulously talented counselor,
Yeah.
and reached out to me with help with the picture book writing part. And so that's how we connected. But we would love to turn that into a whole series of.
Yeah.
God, I feel angry, and then also flipping it to the joyful side, I'm brave and excited and all those wonderful emotions.
The timeline of these projects. So you said about 1 to 2 per year. So you take a project to your agent, or how the beginning of that starts. It's published 2 years from now, a year and a half from now. How does that look?
So for a picture book, it's usually a year and a half to 2 years.
Okay.
At least 1 year after the contract, almost always.
Okay.
Just because you've got the editing time, you've got months of the illustrator working, and most 4-color books, like the picture books, are printed overseas. So you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks on the water. So you've got to allow for that, and then a month to be in the warehouse and shipped out to all the places. So you're looking at a minimum of a year if they fast track it. Okay. Usually it's closer to a year and a half to 2 years. Right now it is, what is it? It's July 2025. So publishing houses are acquiring for, there might be a few left still requiring for late 26, but most everything now they're acquiring for 27.
Okay. All right.
It's a long process.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part.
Sure. What I'm just going to ask you a few more questions. I think this has just been wonderful. I really appreciate all this amazing advice that you've been willing to share with me and whoever's following along. How do you feel about the networking side of things, going to the events? And I joined SCBWI. That's actually how I met you. How do you feel about these networking things, and navigating that space from from the standpoint of somebody new, what is the best way to navigate that, and what maybe is not worth the time or money, would you say?
As a new writer,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say the things that make it worth your time and money are who's going to be there.
Okay.
Is there someone whose work you really admire and want to see how they did it? Are they there teaching a class? Who are the agents and editors who are going to be there that you can connect with? It is worthwhile to make those appointments and get in front of people. There are so many people who want to be writers, and agents and editors just get inundated with manuscripts. So if you can make a face-to-face connection, if they can see that you're not crazy, So if they can see that you are willing to work hard, that you are willing to hold your darlings loosely in your manuscripts, and also if you have more than one manuscript in you, they don't want the one-hit wonders. But that face-to-face connection is great.
Okay.
It's also encouraging to be with other writers who are going through the same things you are. But I'm going to say to vet those things very carefully. Make sure it's aligning with where you want to go and your goals. There are some great writers' conferences that are just fun, and it's a great chance to get away and to just be with other. But it might not be a great return on your investment. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm going to the SCBWI Mid-South Conference, but then I'm also...
Okay, I'll see you there.
Yay! I'm also going to... I signed up for a writer's retreat in October, and it will be at this outdoorsy type place, and so... Yeah, I don't know what to expect, but I think, this will be a nice place to maybe find some space to write and meet some people. But that's good advice, what you said. Yeah. It could just be a nice time away, but who knows what will happen.
Right, exactly.
Is there any other piece of advice you would have for a new author navigating this? It's just or any last words on that?
I would say publishing, whether you go traditional or indie or hybrid, it can be tough. And so my advice is to make sure you're writing for the joy of writing. If you're writing to sell, there's nothing wrong with that, but your ego can take some hits. So I survive it by just loving the writing and loving the creation process. And that's my best tip for how to survive this wonky world of publishing.
That's great. That's truly great. Because then you're being authentic and you're using your gift. One last question. What are the names of your dogs?
Oh, so the little white dog is Beanie. And then we have Reagan. She just turned a year old, and I hope you can't hear them in the background. They are not happy about not being in the office.
Oh, okay.
You have Barbies under your desk. I usually have one puppy on my desk and one in my chair.
Well, they're absolutely welcome to join any other time we do this. That's amazing. That's so great. Well, give them some puppy snuggles for me, and thank you so much for your time. And I'll end it here.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. And like I said, if I can answer any questions, give me a shout.
I appreciate it, and I hope to see you at the conference.
Yes. Just keep me posted, and I'll share this in all the places and get the word out about your podcast.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, till next time. This was Written and Illustrated. I'm Brittany Wuthrich. Thanks for watching today's video. If you like this content, please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment. Under my desk is a large pile of Barbies.